Welcome to another Meet the Cast episode. I'm here with our current Foley artist, JT Walker.
Hello.
Hello, JT. How are you doing today?
I'm all right. It's rainy and gross out, but hasn't put me in a bad mood.
Well, that's good to hear. So, we wanted to get to know you, even though you're not an official troop member, because you are eligible, but you're not an official troop member because you have been our Foley artist for an entire year now.
You know what? It might even be two. I think the first one I did was in 2020.
The first one that you were the technician or the guest star?
Oh, that's a good point. I did do a voice role
Yeah, I think
first,
I
and
think your
then
voice role might have even been late 2019, early 2020.
It's
I'd have to
possible.
look. But then you helped us out as Foley technician for a while, playing sounds that Brendan Meekna
Indeed.
did. And then a year ago, you took over full time as Foley artist.
Right.
Right when we were going back into the theater, as we are now. So let's start with your background, though. Where did you grow up? Where are you from?
I was actually born here in Columbus, Ohio, but then when I was about 4 or 5, my family moved to Huntington, West Virginia.
Uh-huh.
And I lived there until I was about 21, and then I came back to Columbus.
Why'd you come back?
I came back because I got a job at a theater here in town called Shadowbox Live,
Ah.
and I've been working there ever since.
You are not the first Meet the Cast that said Shadowbox brought them to Columbus. So.
Indeed, probably Megan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's for those of you that aren't familiar with Columbus, it's kind of a sketch and rock and roll music live show, and then the actors are also the servers, food and drinks. It's a lot of fun, so you should check it out. But in West Virginia, growing up, did you do anything with theater?
Oh, very much so. Technically, my first role was as an old train in The Little Engine That Could, and my very first spoken line on a stage was, "I'm too old to climb that hill." But then my first community theater, I think that was for school or something. My first community theater production was in 5th grade with the musical Oliver. And there's actually some really good community theater in Huntington. A couple of different companies, and for a small-ish town, there's a lot of culture going on there. And so I just got majorly into doing musical theater and was always on the lookout for the next production, and was anxious to get to the point where I could start doing it professionally.
Nice. So, any other memorable roles besides the Little Engine?
Back in the Huntington days, not really. I was mainly being in choruses in the background, not too many hefty roles. Although one of the things I did right before leaving Huntington was playing Jesus in Godspell. And I absolutely love that show. And I got to do it with my best friend playing the Judas role. And so we had an absolute blast.
So then you came to Shadowbox. Were you hired as a performer, acting on stage?
Yep. Acting. You get hired into the theater as an ensemble member. It's you just sort of join the troupe, and then auditions for things are within that. But you get hired as just a troupe member that'll be on stage and do cleanup work and wait staff or work in the kitchen and do administrative filings and things.
And how many years have you been with them now?
In February of next year, it'll be 20 years.
Jeez, that's a long run. So you must really like working there then.
I do.
Yeah. Any particular memories of Shadowbox that stand out to you?
Oh, goodness. One of my favorites is actually, unfortunately, tied in with an injury. We were putting on an original production. It was a collaboration with a Japanese theater and dance teacher. But he came to the States to work with us on this production called The Tenshu, which is a Japanese ghost story. And I played a samurai. And there was lots of fight choreography with, of course, blunted katanas, but they still have at least some tiny bit of an edge to them. So we were in the middle of a fight scene, and one of the other actors on stage unfortunately slipped on his costume pants and brought his sword down in the wrong place and hit me right across the hand. Of course,
Oh,
listeners
your
can't
pinky
see
finger
this,
and into
but
your ring finger.
yeah, there were
There's some
about
scars.
8 stitches all told, and this happened right toward the end of the production. We had about 15 minutes left of the show that day. In what's going on in the scene, everybody on stage has been magically blinded. So all of the actors literally had their eyes closed, and no one could see that I was bleeding like a stuck pig for a
No.
good 15 minutes on stage.
So you stayed on stage and kept
I
performing.
stayed on stage, kept
The show must
performing,
go
just
on.
put my hand behind my back and dripped blood down onto the stage.
Oh no.
But the best part is that we, of course, rushed me to the emergency room immediately after. And someone said, well, do you want to change first? I said, absolutely not. How many times in your life do you get to go to the emergency room dressed as a samurai?
Yes, absolutely. Plus, if you're bleeding all over the stage, you should probably get checked out sooner rather than later.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now,
Didn't want to waste a lot of time.
Has Shadowbox ever made you cry on stage?
Yeah.
Well, I only asked
when
to-
I've been a good actor.
Well, I only asked because you obviously put your blood. I'm sure you put sweat. So I put
Oh, yes.
tears into
Blood,
Shadowbox
sweat,
as
and
well.
tears.
Yeah.
And I've performed their songs there, too, so it
Nice.
works.
Nice. Have you done other theater or creative projects while you worked at Shadowbox?
Yeah, actually, quite a number. I've worked with Actors Theater, who perform in Schiller Park, and they are
They're
a
so
wonderful
good.
group
Yeah.
of people. I absolutely love them. I had known the current production team, the people that run it these days, from an early on branch out production that I did. They were a group called Foolish Bison back in about 2007. And it was just one of those random things that I'd heard about, and I had a little bit of free time, so I auditioned for their show, got to know them. See, who else have I worked with? Evolution Theater, some great people with Evolution. This this group doesn't really have their own production company, but I did a sort of one-off show that was called Thanksgiving, the musical.
Yeah.
It's a musical version of the indie, deliberately bad B horror movie Thanksgiving about a killer turkey, and that was a whole bunch of fun.
Do you think you naturally gravitate more towards comedy or drama, or?
I generally gravitate more toward comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always been an influence in my life. My parents had some fantastic comedy albums when I was a kid. Some Monty Python, some Second City, Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner's 2,000-Year-Old Man.
Yeah.
And so I was just eating that stuff up from a very early age. I'm probably one of the only people that I know that knew and was very well read in Dave Barry in
I
sixth
love
grade.
Dave Barry. Oh, I've got a bunch of his books,
Yeah.
so I hear you.
At one point, I had all of them, and then I
Nice.
realized they're in my heart. I don't need to take up shelf space.
I don't understand that attitude, but but I appreciate the Dave
I
Barry.
have lots of needed shelf space. I have far too many books.
What else did you do growing up besides theater stuff? What were your hobbies?
Mainly reading.
Reading.
Reading and enjoying as much sketch comedy and British comedy shows as possible. My absolute favorite show of all time, even though I know some of it is bad, is a rather obscure to Americans show, Red Dwarf.
I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you go over to England and they have conventions for
Oh,
it,
yeah.
but hardly anybody that I ever speak to over here knows about it.
So you were a reader growing up. Are you still a reader?
Very much so.
Very much.
I will generally have about 3 books going at a time. I break it down into, I start the day very cognizant, and I kind of sunset throughout the day. So I'll do my heady classics reading first thing in the morning with my coffee, the things that, I never got around to reading in school and always felt I should. For instance, right now I'm reading Canterbury Tales.
Oh, yeah, I've
which
read
was
that.
just one
Yeah.
of those that I
Yeah.
couldn't believe I'd never read.
It's pretty lengthy.
Oh yeah, but it's fun. Although
is.
the edition that I own, I realized, is a modern English translation. So I don't know how I would do with the original Old English version, how comprehensive that would be. but at least in the modern English version, I'm zipping.
Yeah, no,
Zipping right
it
through.
is a light read. It's just a lot of it, a
Yeah,
lot
oh
of
yeah.
tales. So
And then mid-afternoon will be just sort of the mid-range, and then later on in the evening, it'll usually be like a reread or some of my comics. Big comics fan too.
really, Marvel or DC?
All sorts. It used to be Marvel,
Mm-hmm.
100%, maybe a little bit of Batman, but absolute Marvel, mainly Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Then, as I got older, it started to become more about the author
Mm-hmm.
than the brands or the actual character. Although one of my favorite characters still, pretty much no matter who's writing him, is John Constantine.
Mm.
I'm working on getting the entire Hellblazer collection.
Oh
I'm
wow,
close. But there's a
that's
lot
impressive.
of it.
I was gonna say that's pretty impressive. You read indie comics as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, outside of the main publishers.
Yeah.
Any particular genres that you read, or do you read a pretty good variety?
A pretty good variety, but comics and novels, my go-to is usually going to be around the sci-fi fantasy genre. One of my favorite genres of novels to read is just, $2 paperback sci-fi novels that I'll find at half-price books or
Nice.
Cafe Kerouac or something. Some of the classic authors like Isaac Asimov or Heinlein. If I judge a book by its cover and pick it up, then I'm going to give it a shot.
All right, so you're somebody, once you start a book, you generally finish it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if I'm hating it.
Yeah, me too. I can't stand putting it down in the middle. What interested you in Foley work?
It was actually something that probably started at Shadowbox. First of all, percussion in general is one of the main things that I do there. Not like behind the drum kit. I'm no good with sticks for some reason. But anything that is outside of that and percussive. So hand drums, bongos, congas, tambourines, shakers. And there was an ongoing, reoccurring sketch characters format, if you will, which, of course, you're familiar with that sort of thing with what we do here.
What? No, I don't know what you're talking about.
But it was called Dr. Mystery, and it was in the style of kind of the old-timey radio serials, and there were always three components to the sketches. There was live actors on the stage. There was a puppet stage where some of the scenes would be in puppet forms, which was basically just Barbie dolls on sticks. And then there was always an announcer with a sound person. And so they would be right on the center stage, the announcer standing and the sound person behind this big bar-looking thing with all these sound effects laid out, and a rumble can, a trash can full of soda cans, and they usually had a very chaotic relationship of the sound person just sort of interrupting the narrator and having their own fun and needing to be reeled in, rather Harpo Marx-esque.
Nice.
Especially since they never spoke unless it was some sort of bit. And so I absolutely loved that format. Never got to do the sound person part of it. I was generally one of the actors. I've played many of the villains in the various Dr. Mystery sketches. The three main actors, of course, were regular company members and would stay the same every time, but the auxiliary actors would come and go.
And their format's like a Saturday Night Live, where you may do a reoccurring sketch, but you don't need to have any prior knowledge.
Absolutely.
They're all standalone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Finally, I got to be the sound person. And then, like, right after that is when we moved from the Easton Town Center to downtown location. And there's just something about the downtown location that makes the sketch not work anymore.
Really?
I think it's because it's too big. For the way we did it, it needed to be kind of an intimate setting, and you needed to be able to be like close up and have the deliberately bad puppets right there in your face. And when you added a good 20, 30 feet to how far back the audience would be, it just didn't quite work as well. And the audiences just didn't seem to be enjoying them as much. And So eventually we said, yeah, no, we're not going to do this one anymore.
Oh, that's too
And I
bad.
missed it.
Maybe try it again at some point.
At some point,
At some
maybe.
point. That's cool. So that got you into that, and then you had applied. We were looking for a new Foley artist a couple of years ago when our original one left, and you had been one of the people that reached out to me. But at the time, we had already worked with Brendan Meekna, and we knew him, and it was the pandemic, so he wasn't working.
Who, by the way, was another person that I met through Foolish Bison.
Really?
Yeah.
I love Brendan. But yeah, when we were looking for a new Foley, and I realized that once the pandemic was over, we were probably going to lose him, but I was like, I want to work with him while I can because I love Brendan. And we've worked with his wife quite a bit. And so we chose him, but you came in. Several of my troupe knew who you were and said, JT's a good guy. You should work with him. He's fun.
Well, shucks.
And so I think at that point I reached out and offered you an acting role.
Yeah, I think
you didn't
he
have to
said
audition.
we weren't quite sure on the Foley thing, but if
Yeah.
I was interested in a voice role, then there was one available.
Yeah, so I wrote you a character named Bombastic in the Top Notch
right.
Tangler, which I really loved. A character that was
was fun.
determined to blow himself up. But in a Bugs Bunny style that, like, it's funny, but yeah, you can't come back.
Right.
Or Daffy Duck. Yeah,
Yeah,
once you're
the
dead, you're
classic was a great trick, but I can only do it once.
Exactly. That was an inspiration. And you did a very old-timey voice that I liked.
Yeah. Something along this line.
Yes. Yes, I liked that a lot. Yeah, that was your first experience. What was your first impression of Radio Hour when you came in? That was online, though, wasn't it?
Yes. I didn't really know what I was getting into. I knew of you guys. I had a friend. I still have him. I have a friend. His name is Lucas. Lucas Tomasachi.
Yes.
Who performed with you guys and was telling me how much he enjoyed it. And I was
should come
thinking,
back.
well, that's not. Unfortunately, he's moved away. He lives in New York these days.
Well, he sucks. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. He was great. I remember him.
I believe it because he is an incredibly talented person. I knew that you guys existed, but I hadn't seen a show. I really didn't know anything about it. I think I just happened to make that connection of, oh yeah, Lucas worked with these guys when I saw that you were looking for people. And I mean, that first experience of just doing the voice role, and it was over Zoom, so it was a little surreal, not quite what I was used to, but it was very easy. I didn't even have to worry about where to hold my script because it was on the computer screen right there. And then I found out Megan was a troupe member as well, and that was cool too because I of course knew her.
Yeah, she was brand new. I don't even know if she was a troupe member yet when you guest starred, but she was around.
I don't think she was. I think I remember seeing the announcement that she was becoming an official troupe member.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
That would have been like right at the end of her guest star tenure. Yeah. Lucas played the giant in an episode of Daniel Kravitz. I could picture him, but I was
Okay.
trying to remember. Yeah, the fee, fi, fo, fum.
Nice.
Lots of rhyming. Yeah, he was really fun. He was our 23rd guest star.
Oh,
so that was pretty early because we're up to like 120 at this point.
Nice.
So, yeah. You were our 98th guest star, by the way.
Okay.
So you missed the 100, but you were close
Meh.
to it. You were close to it. We quickly ran into Brendan as things started to open up. He's like, I can make you sounds, but I can't be there. And he did that a number of times. And what made you want to do that? Because all you did was sit there and press play, and I feel bad. Like, I didn't know you, and I'm like, can you just sit here and press play for me?
Because I like to help.
Okay.
And I also, I enjoyed my experience doing the voice acting so much, and thought, let's just do more with these guys. These are good people. They seem good. And if I do this a couple of times, maybe then I'll do another voice role at some point in the future. Maybe it'll branch into something further, and I'll deepen the relationship with these guys.
It definitely worked because once Brendan said, okay, I'm going to have to step aside, I was like, we don't need to, if JT's willing, I don't need to talk to anybody else because we'd already worked with you several times. I'm like, you put in the time. You deserve the opportunity for sure.
It was a terrifying learning experience when we made that transition.
Yeah.
Because suddenly I was responsible for things.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, here's the list, press play. I had so little idea of what I was doing with computers at that point that all I did was put things in order in like my taskmaster just window that you look for various programs, and just double clicked on each one, letting it play through my computer's media player.
Sure.
There was no sort of editing or mixing software involved in the slightest.
Has there been any big challenges that you've had? Anything we gave you that you're like, I really don't know how I'm going to do this?
There have been challenges, but I've overcome them. It was learning that Mixcraft software. It was actually figuring out how to start instead of. So first I was just given the sounds and I played them. And then the next step was finding my own sounds and playing them. And then the next step was finding the sounds, manipulating the sounds, and creating a mixture of sounds.
Yeah.
So each new step has been very challenging. And kind of one of those. I freak out. I don't know. What am I doing? I'm not a sound person. I'm learning how to do this for this. But now, now I actually know some things.
You could have fooled me. I thought you had knowledge coming in. I mean, I knew Mixcraft was new to you, but you certainly hit the ground running, I thought. So I appreciate it. So with the Foley artist, you end up doing more work than a lot of the troupe members because you have a lot of preparation.
There's a lot of front-end work, yeah.
How long do you think it takes you to prepare for a show?
This particular show has probably been the most prep yet.
Yeah.
And
this is the 7th anniversary show today, the Cuckoo Courtney special.
And there are a lot of sound beds in this one. A lot of just ambient going on under the scene. And so I created a couple of those, and a lot of different truck sounds. Yeah. Well, and you talked about finding sounds online, but we have that other thing where I don't let anybody use copywritten sounds and music, and I'm sure that adds an extra layer of challenge. Because there are some websites that are sources, but they don't necessarily have everything. Yeah, actually, I'll take this opportunity to plug zapsplat.com, which is a free source sound effects site that I'm pretty much primarily using.
Yeah, I tended to use, because I've been the Foley as a backup a handful of times as a substitute. And it's freesound.org is one I use a lot. Okay. But I end up sometimes just having to mix stuff. And when it's magic and sci-fi, you're really grabbing things that are not at all related to magic and sci-fi and trying to make it sound good. Because, I don't know if does Zapsplat have like sci-fi sounds?
Actually. They have lots of different categories. They've been very, very helpful.
That sounds more, Freesound doesn't have anything like that.
What takes the longest sometimes is just wading through all of the different sounds that they'll have for a particular category. And a couple of times now, I've stopped myself from trying to find the absolute perfect sound. Just going, no, it's good enough. Yeah. It'll work. Yeah. Stop, move on.
Absolutely. You could go down a rabbit hole, and you could do this as a full-time job if we had the money to pay you to do it. Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any aspirations for doing more with the show or additional projects?
I'm just generally game.
Well, you did our video with us for the YouTube.
That's right.
The Peacemaker dance.
Yeah, as soon as I found out you guys were doing that, I absolutely had to jump on board. And I finally finished the show, which, it was so good. Yeah. But, silly, fun little things like that are great. I love doing stuff like
that. Are you a writer, director? Or you? Yeah?
Yeah, I'm one of the writers at Shadowbox, actually. Nice. So I'm on the sketch comedy writing team. And I'll generally have at least one sketch of my own in every show. Nice.
Yeah, a number of our cast members contribute sketches to the show. And we take an outside pitches as well. Just whatever you want to and have time to do. Which you seem like you're a pretty busy guy. So
I generally keep my plate relatively full. Yeah, I've got my full-time performance and administrative and creative job, and I like to find small creative projects wherever I can. And this one's now kind of become a middle ground. It's not just a one-off, whenever free. it's a regular
Every
regular side thing.
Yeah. I mean, you can take months off, you have, but
Indeed.
but it's pretty much every month. So, oh, we appreciate you going. What have I not asked you or that have we not talked about that we need to know about JT? Because we need to get to know you. The audience is wanting to know.
I dance alone in my house
Nice.
all the time.
Naked?
Not always.
Oh, okay. But sometimes.
If I'm fresh out of the shower and I need to air dry.
And your buddy's with Justin McElroy.
Yes,
You grew up with him in Huntington.
I did, yes.
What? We're not going to spend much time on that, but how did you two meet?
Through community theater.
Okay.
He and I were both in that production of Oliver. We were both chorus member, like lowest tier. I believe we were Paperboy 1 and 2. We weren't even like the orphans that sing with Oliver. We were just in the street scenes, and we just got to know each other, and then started being in more productions together, and became friends. Would have sleepovers at each other's house.
Nice.
Once in college, walked into my apartment to find him and 3 other of my friends sitting in their tighty-whities, drinking beers. As soon as I walked in the door, I regarded them for a moment and said, well, when in Rome, dropped trow and grabbed a beer from the fridge.
Very nice. Thank you very much for talking with us and for everything you're doing for the show.
Of course, thanks for having me.
It is not overlooked. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.
It's All Been Done Radio Hour number 411, Meet the Cast, episode 40, JT Walker. This podcast was edited by Chris Allen. Check out our website at IABDpresents.com. We want to thank both Circle 270 Media, which this podcast is a part of, and Boxen Media, our host performance space. Don't forget to support us at patreon.com/IABD. A mere $2 donation gets you access to past and upcoming live streaming shows, as well as exclusive bloopers and video. Have a splendiferous, great one day. That's right, I combined a bunch of things there, because that's how much I want you to have a good one. Toodles.
It's All Been Done presents.
Who's got the time?